I'm Przemek, I'm the CEO of GG Predict, and I want to show you some examples and explain a little bit how data can be used in esports and why I think this is one of the most important avenues of growth in our industry. And if you're scared with big data, please don't be. There will be not many technicalities. I'll try to make it interesting and valuable for everyone. And just for intro, GG Predict is currently focusing on CSGO. So this webinar will be mostly talking about CSGO, but the main messages are transferable to other games. And esports uses surprisingly little data. And especially given that everything that we do happens in computers, and we have all the information in our hands. When you think of football, of basketball, you have all those crazy statistics. Some of them are so detailed, they become funny. And it's very costly for them in those sports to gather the data. And with esports, it's not the case. Everything we do, everything a player does is sent to and from a server and in packets that are easily understandable. And all we have to do is change this data flowing between servers to valuable metrics. And here you have the first example, which is data, the distance covered by a player in each round. And if you follow football, that's the most basic metric, and nobody gathers it for esports, for CSGO. And I think that this is, it tells us a lot about what players do, how they play, what is their style, and what's their role in their team. And yeah, you can see the top 3 and bottom 3 players and the average among all the players. Here you see the top flashers in game. When you play against Fallen, against MIBR, your team will probably be flashed for over 3.5 seconds by Fallen himself only. And on the other side of the spectrum, you see that Brazilian players, apart from Fallen, apparently, do not pay that much attention to flash practice. And only in this short slide, you can see, you can get some sense that there is huge discrepancy between how the supportive style and supportive skills of players in CounterStrike. And if we would augment it by adding the rest of utilities, measures of positioning, of spotting opponents, and dozens of other metrics, supportive metrics, let's say, we can get a comprehensive view of who's the best in that role. Or if we take other metrics, we can have any other role in team. And not to let you ask, this is our analysis of top players for the last 2 months in international CSGO and Poland. And some of you might ask why, for example, Sensei from Crazy, who is probably not that well known, why is he here and not Zantares, for example? And one thing, simple thing is that it's easier to get good grades when you play against less skilled opponents. But mostly, looking only at kills or at damage produced doesn't give us the whole picture. And very often we see when we build our AI models is that kills don't matter as much as providing support for all your team. And what does matter? Just to give you some examples, obviously killing and not dying is quite important. This is not too surprising. However, if a player on CT side or on defense in CounterStrike spots a lot of players and deals some damage to them, it's usually way more helpful for his team than having a single or 2 kills even. On the other hand, if terrorist team plants a bomb, it increases their winning chances by substantially more than having additional kill. And if you don't want your team to lose, generally the best advice is not to die again, but giving up opening deaths is the worst thing you can do. But you can see, for example, in terrorist side, the easiest way to increase your win probability is not being prepared for CT aggression. If you're caught with a knife, or killed from behind, which are the best indicators of being surprised, you're absolutely the most likely to lose. On the city side, there is no such obvious situation, but if you want to win, try not to go to the positions that are often flashed and remain sensible with flanking your opponents and walking around the map. These are very bad for you. And where does this all lead us to? So we know how players play, where they are behind, where they are worse than others, and what is really important to win. So the next step, obviously, is to combine this knowledge. And at GGP, we are building a virtual coach, which is a tool, for all players, for everyone, to be able to better understand the game and be able to pinpoint the skills they need to improve the most. And we believe every player should seek answers in data from any source, for that matter. And while playing, we are excited, we forget stuff. If we ask our teammates for feedback, it's usually not reliable because they obviously focus on themselves too. And being better at the game is just more fun. So why not take the simple approach? And statistical analysis of your game is just like having a personal coach, only faster and cheaper. And talking about coaches, we talk to a lot of them. We work with some professional teams. And we see that this is an extremely time-consuming job. So some of them even, sacrifice some part of the analysis. For example, we talked with teams that do not make opponent analysis, do not check tactics of who they will play against, because they think it takes too much time and they want to focus on the interior problems. And that is obviously detrimental to team's performance. And obviously, if you can learn your opponent's executes and be half a step ahead, that gives you enormous advantage. And at the same time, there are only so many tactics that team can play on each map. You can attack A, B in a few different ways. And if a coach could get a simple report of opponent's rotations and execute patterns, he could very easily prepare for all of his opponent's plays. And all of this is available with a bit of machine learning, basically. We can extract all the information about every attack on every side, every pattern of grenades, of attacks and defenses. And on top of that, add reinforcement learning or some simulation that would grade every movement and give us a short report that tells us that, Fnatic attacks be at 1 minute 0.5, they start with 2 smokes and whatever, and we can have the perfect response to every tactic immediately. And also, data can help us build your team. We noticed that winning teams very often present very different playstyles. However, they all share this one thing, that all the complementary skills and all the skills are represented by their players. So they are always a full package. And very often when teams are rebuilding, they make the same mistakes of taking only the most skilled players in terms of kills and damage output. And this is a great mistake that could be easily omitted with basic data and checking who does what in their teams on Faceit or in their games. But data doesn't performance and improvement is not everything that data can give us to make esports better. I've started this talk with some fun facts about players, about teams, and ones that seem very obvious to all of us, but they are not analyzed, not shared with fans. And recently we saw a report that said that 40% more people are willing to watch sport broadcasts if they are provided with statistics describe what they are watching. And stuff like rankings, especially if they're reliable and actually show who is better, are a great example of that. And recently at GG Predict, we created 2 small infographics summarizing DreamHack Masters that took place last month. And the results were amazing, especially for a few minutes of work, basically. And it highlights that people are interested in data and are willing to share such knowledge, are willing to talk about it. And we think, and we know that esports fans understand statistics. They know what they mean. And we see that lack of those stats in the content that we deliver to them is a huge missed opportunity for media, teams, companies trying to run communication with them. Because players want to get better and they want to understand the game, and it's not obvious when you just watch it. And finally, I want to give you some tips. Perhaps the obvious use for data in any sports is bookmaking. And in esports, bookmakers don't have that much experience in predicting what's going to happen. If you look at CS Summit, the tournament that just ended a few days ago, the teams that the bookmakers expected to lose won in vast majority of cases. And some bookmakers predicted wrongly all but 1 or 2 games in all of the tournament. So recently, betting against the bookmaker was actually an amazing predictor of what was going to happen. In general, outside of these recent days, bookmakers usually are about random. They hit slightly more than 50% of game winners. And it means that if you have some more knowledge, if you understand the game better, you can have an incredible edge over them. And just to give you some example, our own models predict close to 3/4 of all CSGO games. And just the team rankings, where I showed you the top 5 recently, this has the accuracy of almost 65% by itself. This gives bettors a significant advantage over the bookmakers. So summarizing, I want to leave you with a thought that esports are played on computers, and all the data is already here at arm's length, just enough to we just need to grab it. And despite all that, we are using extremely little data, and each stakeholder in esports industry, be it a fan, a player, a professional team, tournament organizer, whoever, everyone can benefit from knowing more, being able to share more, and playing better. And using data is the easiest and smartest way to get there. So thank you very much. And if you want to talk more about analyzing, gathering data from CSGO or any other games, as we're moving into them as well, write to me. I'll be happy to answer questions, or write to anyone at GG Predict team. We'd be very happy to talk to you. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you guys. If you don't have any questions, you can write to me after the event. I'll be happy to answer, and bye.